Hey everyone, welcome to Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast. This podcast is all about farmers markets, how to increase your market business success while providing people with fresh food. Farmers markets are essential. Whether you're a farmers market manager or a small farmer or food maker selling at farmers markets, you have found just the right podcast. This week on Tent Talk, we're celebrating our 200th episode of Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast. Woo! Woohoo! Yay!
Go us!
Go us! 200. Wow. That's a lot. It's a lot of work, but, well worth it. We love it. All right. We'll talk about that. Well, hello, everybody. I'm one of your hosts of Tent Talk, Bridget Myers. I am a longtime farmers market manager, and I'm the education coordinator at Farmers Market Pros.
And I'm Kat Fields-White, Director of San Diego Markets, still an active farmers market manager and market consultant, founder of Farmers Market Pros, and host of the Farmers Market Pros community.
And I'm Justine Marzoni-Mead, Tent Talk producer and marketing director for Farmers Market Pros.
And pretty soon we'll be talking about how Justine is our coordinator for the Intense Conference.
Yep, an info booth lady for San Diego Markets,
That's
and
right.
social media gal.
She's got a long one, a long job description.
Zucchini farmer.
I don't have zucchinis anymore.
Oh, I just got the last huge one. That
Yeah.
was
It was
All right.
awesome.
They
That was
died
huge.
when I was on vacation.
Oh, wah, wah.
But I have cucumbers now.
Hey,
Oh, I love cucumbers.
Yeah.
Bring us cucumbers.
benefit from that.
Today's episode of Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast, is supported by American Farmland Trust, protecting farm and ranch land to help foster a new generation of farmers. Farmers markets don't exist without farmers. It's important. Your membership helps promote healthy food and a better climate for all of us. American Farmland Trust's annual Farmers Market celebration is now underway, so be sure to encourage your shoppers to vote for your market at markets.farmland.org, and we'll put a little button on the website so that you can use that to get to them. For more information, click the American Farmland Trust logo on the resource page at farmersmarketpros.com.
Well, welcome back to Tent Talk, everyone. This week, something very special is happening. We're celebrating our 200th episode of this here podcast.
Yay!
So our guests today are us.
Our guests today are your podcasters.
That's right.
Very smug podcasters.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yes.
I'm pretty impressed.
Yeah.
200 episodes, that's a lot. We were just at a conference, Bridget and I, and we were in a podcast mastermind kind of session, and it's not that typical to do a podcast every week for 200 episodes.
It's true. Honestly, I'm impressed.
Yeah. So looking back on our 200 episodes of Tent Talk, can't believe it. Time flies. It feels like only yesterday that we were nervously recording our first episode in a very echoey room.
I think we recorded it like 3 times.
And I was still saying, wait, now what's a podcast?
Kat's like, "What's this doohickey?" We had to kind of usher her along into the podcast world because
I remember
Justine
you finally
and I.
explained it to me by saying it's like radio, but on demand, because I'd done a lot of radio.
Yes.
So that made sense to me.
There we go. We had to meet you where you were.
And
That's
usually Kat's the one with crazy ideas who's
Yeah.
trying to con us into doing
That's
it.
true.
Yes.
So it was
That's
a good
true.
role reversal for us.
right.
That's great. I'm glad that we conspired and actually did it. And Justine taught herself how to record and produce and publish podcasts. So good job.
She's
Add
a
that to your
professional
business
sound
card.
engineer now.
Yes.
That scroll.
Not really.
Yeah.
Helps that Justine has a husband who actually is
Yeah,
sort
he
of
knows-
a sound engineer.
He sat through some frustrated moments of trying to edit. And he recorded our cute little intro,
Yes, our intro music.
Our intro
is
music.
I love that music.
by Dave.
which was originally a demo, and he's been saying for the past 4 years, he's like, I need to re-record that. I'm like, no, it's perfect.
It's perfect the way it is. I love
do
it.
want to see him expand it to a whole soundtrack for when we do the movie.
That's right.
You know?
I mean, some lyrics.
Yeah, we need
Let's
to
get
like
on
a whole
that.
And some
string
lyrics.
section.
Yeah,
Yes.
string section,
Yeah.
lyrics, so that we can have a sing-along at the conference every year.
What's
we
his
go.
name?
This is
Lin-Manuel
wild.
Miranda.
Yeah.
Maybe we can get...
Get him.
Yeah.
Let's put him on our bucket list.
There we
I wonder
go.
if he shops at markets. I bet he does.
I'm sure he listens to the podcast.
I bet he goes
sure
to
he
like
does.
the
Call
Union
us.
Square Market.
Call
Yeah.
us, Lin-Manuel.
Dave is probably sick of our voices by now because he has to listen to Justine constantly be editing these podcasts. So
Oh,
thanks,
my
Dave.
goodness. Yeah.
Yeah. But, I'm very proud of us because we've come a long way. We have a podcast pod now. the soundproof box.
Well, it's kind of
Mostly
soundproof.
Mostly soundproof. I
Kinda soundproof.
can hear the waffle shop next door to our office right now, so hopefully
Okay, kinda
y'all
soundproof.
can. It's kind of soundproof. More soundproof than other places that we've
True.
had.
Definitely not as echoey as
Not as echoey as
an
our
original room.
concrete office.
That's right.
Our printer isn't making noise in the background. We've just come so far. I just feel like this is
I
great. Look at these
know.
mics.
Come a
They were
long way.
awesome.
Fancy microphones.
We're fancy
And
now.
it's so fun because I feel like at the beginning we were just, kind of talking to people, the amazing people that we already knew. But we've made so many new buddies through the podcast of either people that I just found on the internet and reached out to, or people that wrote us saying, I love your podcast, and then me being, I'd love to have you on the show. So it's been a really awesome way to get even deeper into our farmers market community, meet new people, and find out the really wild, interesting things that people all over the country and beyond are doing in farmers markets.
We've always said, like, being a market operator feels really isolating sometimes. So this has been such a great way to connect with other people in our sphere. And it's not just for us to connect with them, but for all of our listeners to feel really connected to other people that are doing the same kind of things that they are, or that have great ideas of new things that they're doing, or something, that is adjacent to what they're doing.
Yeah.
And it's been nice to kind of bring all those people together in our little podcast web.
It's a fun gateway drug too.
Yeah.
Say that, when when you tell people about the podcast and they start listening to that, then all of a sudden, they join that private community on Facebook and start talking to other market managers, and they sign up for the conference sometimes, and then we get to meet them face to face.
And then they get our Vendor 101 online
right.
courses and marketing for markets. And it's like I feel like we have this toolbox to offer, and the podcast is a good way to just help people like recognize what is out there for them and what can really help them increase the success of their business.
Yeah. If there is a podcast about one of your niche interests, I feel like it reinforces like, oh, this is a thing.
Yes.
It's not just me.
Not just
It's
me.
the whole thing.
Not just me. Yes.
Yeah.
And we love getting all those great reviews and just feedback on the podcast. It really is so special and means a lot to us. Every time we get a message, we all share it within, the three of us. We're like, oh, this person reached out, or look at this message we got, or this review that we got. So we really do look at all of those and read all of those, and it really means a lot because we put a lot of time and effort into making this podcast.
We do.
And we
I love those.
I love
emails
it.
back or messages back on Insta.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't tell you this, but just this last weekend at the market, a guy stopped by the info booth and said, oh, are you one of the podcast ladies? And I was like, yeah, I'm Justine. And he said his favorite episode, I don't even remember this one, but he said his favorite episode was one time we talked about spaghetti tacos.
Oh, yeah.
Like your nephew.
What's his name? From the taco place in
San Francisco?
at Pike's Place. Wait.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Tacolicious or...
Tacolicious.
Yeah.
That guy was funny. That was our one episode that we had to say it was like rated R or whatever you do because he was cussing.
The guy said it was his favorite because we cuss a lot. And I was like, okay, well, he's probably listening to this right now. But.
That's the one. Yeah. Oh, that was a good
That
one.
was really funny. That one is on my list of like, it was such a fun episode because we were just having a ball with that guy. What was his name? Now I have to look it up.
Now I have
But
to look
he
it
was
up, but
awesome.
it was great.
Yeah. That was fun.
was
Oh,
good.
how random. I feel like Kat and I have had these stories too where we're like out or I'm talking at the market or wherever at a conference and someone will turn around and be like, oh, Bridget from Tent Talk. I'm like, oh.
That is the funniest thing. I was in Philly and I was talking and somebody came up behind me and said, I recognize your voice. You're from Tent Talk. Yeah. And that's happened overseas even.
Yes.
Wow.
It's
yeah. No, it's fun. I mean, it's good to know people are listening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank
Well, it's great
you.
that they have
Thank
most
you.
memorable episodes.
Yes.
Do we have most memorable episodes? There's so many.
For sure.
Yeah, well, I have to say, and these are just recently, I didn't go all the way back deep into the archives because we have revisited a couple of the old ones in past episodes. But I feel like this last year, or at least since like COVID, we like really hit a deep well of knowledge and just interesting people.
Yeah.
I guess I've just gotten better at like digging through the internet to find people. But
Yeah.
I love talking to Lauren Wood from she I think was from Atlanta, and they have little pop-up markets at
at
MARTA, at the MARTA station.
Yes.
And it was just such a cool, interesting program, a combination of public transit and food access, and she was just really, really sweet and awesome, and it just seems like such a cool idea.
She had such a passion for it, too. So
Yeah.
it was nice to talk to people that were just really – she was eloquently explaining, like, why she was doing that program. That was such a great – she was a great guest. Yeah, for sure.
That's a good one.
Yeah. I think definitely, like, all the episodes that we've done since COVID have been a little more, like – the episodes before were very informational. I feel like we had fantastic guests. We got to talk to a lot of different people, but just I feel like my most memorable episodes were really when like March 2020 was happening, and it's like Justine was not even really on the podcast for like a short period of time because she was doing her other job. But like Kat and I were sitting in the office with Adam, who used to record it for us.
Oh yeah,
and it was when everything was really. The world was super freaking out, and it was like we were like, we're just going to talk into these microphones, and it really made me feel like better in some way about what was going on, and just people were reaching out to us like, oh, can you talk about this? Like, what's going on in your area? And then the best thing about that was that Justine came back to the podcast.
That's right.
So she, like everyone's getting laid off, so just bringing her back in, and then the three of us were a pod. Like these two adults were the only people outside of my immediate family in my house that I was seeing during that time, besides people behind masks and all that at the market on site. So we were podcasting as a COVID pod, and that was just a really important time, I feel like, for the podcast, because people needed that. They needed to hear from people that were doing the same thing and going through the same struggles and pivoting. So that was really, a silver lining of a really scary, horrible time. Yeah. So that was definitely very memorable.
Out some of that. I completely forgot that Justine was not with us right at the beginning of COVID.
I know.
I did forget that Adam recorded it, but it would be fun because he would send me the recordings and I would still edit them.
You would still edit them,
and I would just mostly have to like cut his laughter out.
Right.
He has such a good laugh.
It's the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we were very entertaining for him. But he was, we're like, we got it. I feel like we talked about it. It's like, oh my gosh, what's happening with the world? And like my kids were home. So I was like, do I have time to do this? And Kat and I were just like, we have to keep doing the podcast. Yeah. We can't stop doing that. Like this is really helpful right now. So that was super.
That's very intense.
That was an intense time of our podcasting. Podcasting time.
Okay.
And then also just like all the podcasts that we do about like starting a new market or like marketing for, I feel like the ones that we do that are geared for like new market managers, I always feel really good talking about that kind of stuff because I've been a market manager for so long, but I love like sharing that information with us because we get a lot of feedback like, oh my gosh, like you guys helped me. Like basically I didn't know what I was doing, and just listening to the podcast really helps like train these new market managers, and that makes me feel great that we can help like just boost people up into becoming like really great market managers that are there for the long run. Yeah.
We get great messages from those.
Yeah.
The one woman called herself, you grew me from a baby market manager.
A baby market. We're like, you flew the coop. But even
they grew up so fast.
They grew up so fast. And then when we're out and about and at the conference, it's so nice to have people come to the conference and say, oh, you're like, I've been listening to your podcast since I started managing a market. It's really helped me like develop really great tools and made my market a success. So, I mean, that just makes it really all worth it.
Yeah. Speaking of the conference, one of my favorite and really most memorable one for me, and also because I get to edit them, so I listen to most episodes a few times at least. But I loved the episode that we recorded live at the conference, What's Your Why episode, where I got to sit with all of these market managers and ask them what's their why, what keeps them, or some of them were vendors or farmers too, but just sharing, why, what keeps them coming back week after week and doing this hard work and why they're so invested in farmers markets. And that was really fun and kind of a tearjerker and kind of funny. And it was just great to kind of hear the personalities of all these different market operators and farmers market folk and realize that each market is so different and individual and really reflects the group that operates it, but also we have so many shared values, and like it is weirdly the same everywhere you go. Like the challenges and kind of the benefits, the pros and cons are strangely universal no matter where you are.
It really is incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That episode's such a treasure. I feel like that's going to be like I'm going to go back and listen to that episode for a long time.
Yeah, whenever we have to miss an episode again in the future, let's just rerun that one.
Yes. Y'all are going to hear that a few times.
I like talking to Michael Kilpatrick. I thought he had really good nuts and bolts information for farmers in particular, but also for market managers.
Love him.
Shiny's episodes. I always love hearing from Shiny. She's always got amazing insights.
Yeah.
And she's a blast. And I could listen to her talk all day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me too. Yeah, Shiny from the Come Through Market in Portland, and also she has been really involved all along with the Farmers Market Coalition Anti-Racist Toolkit. We actually met her through Sadrina Jalal.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was, it's been great. Diane Johnson from the Laurelton Market in Queens.
Yes.
A baby market manager, sort of. She's obviously a grown-up, professional, incredible woman, but as a market manager, she's been a novice, and it was fun talking to her and finding out that we were kind of BFFs from afar.
Yeah. No, that was really great talking to her. We were just talking about like checking in with her, and just I like going back and being able to check in with our podcast guests too and say, oh, I wonder how they're doing. Like we talked about this or an issue or a challenge they were having, and then being able to check in with them and then saying, yeah, now I'm doing this new thing that's really helped me. So
yeah,
that's always awesome. Having Maya on, I feel like she's
Yeah.
she's our fourth podcast
That's right.
host that just pops on when she has time, which is,
Less and
rarely.
less lately.
I know.
Oh,
my
also,
goodness.
she stopped by the market the other day. I have all the like info booth gossip.
Yeah.
But Maya stopped by the info booth the other day and said she wants to come on and spill the tea about the Home Shopping
Oh,
Network
I'd love to
please.
do
and
that.
how she pulled in a new ex-NBA
That's right.
investor.
She's
Yes.
an investor now.
And her new brick and mortar. So this is a
Amazing.
teaser for down the line. And also, Maya, if you're listening,
Yes,
you'll be
let's
getting
totally
an email
catch
from
up
me.
with her. I gotta say, I kind of had to laugh when that QVC person dunked the vegan cookie in the milk.
We were dying. We need to ask her about that. I want like live reaction.
We gotta hear her.
She's like,
Okay.
it doesn't even taste vegan. And it's like, because you just dipped it in a tumbler
Cow's milk.
of cow's milk.
That was the best.
Oh my goodness!
But she's awesome.
Yes,
I
time
mean,
to have her back.
And I like talking to our market guests. Like I love that we talk to people across
The world.
The world, really. I was going to say America, but it's like the world. We talk to our friends in Canada and everywhere. But I like kind of hearing, like when we talk to Jorge from My Pozzoli and Emily from Domaine Santé and like Libby from Kula, it's like we know these people. Like I know them. Like a lot of them have taken Vendor 101. Like we know them very well. They're part of our markets, but then we really get to ask them like their story and like their day to day. And I always really love that because I'm so invested in my own like vendors growing and being successful. And I love to hear like how they started, what they're doing now that's really exciting them, and like where their future plans are and what their goals are. So I love that part of talking to our vendors as well as other people that are vending at other markets.
Yeah, Chris Hudson.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
was good from Arizona.
Yeah, our Arizona pals. I'm an AZ girl, so it's nice to talk to them.
Yeah, so what guests have we've talked to some amazing people, but is there anybody that's on your bucket list of somebody that you would...
I have a few.
Kat has enough for all of us. I don't really have a bucket list guest, but I'm sure I probably share them with Kat, so
That's true.
go ahead.
So Justine actually heard back from one of our original kind of bucket list guests.
Someone took themselves off our bucket list.
They did. We
for us.
really, because all of us are hugely admiring of Barbara King Salver for all of her writing and her books.
Yeah,
But,
Author, advocate, all the things that she does.
Right, but in terms of relevance to us, her Animal Vegetable Miracle, I mean, that inspired a lot of people in this industry and in the whole farm-to-table movement and understanding where our food comes from and things. And we did reach out to her because we're not afraid to contact anybody.
As I recall, I wrote her a really nice email and was like, I just read your book. This is who we are. And I didn't hear back for a little while. And then I got a letter in the mail. And I was like, ooh, okay. And then she was really nice and just said that she no longer sees herself as a spokesperson for that movement anymore.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
We still love her. we wouldn't mind talking to you. We'll talk to you about something else if you want.
Yeah, let's talk about anything else.
Anything else.
She turned me down gently. So.
Yeah,
that was
that's nice.
Yeah.
We should frame that, hang it up in
personal
here.
rejection is always good. That's
Yeah.
good. Let's see. Who else is on my bucket list? Michelle Obama.
Oh,
If
yeah.
you're
Okay,
listening.
that is, yes.
Yes.
All right, should
I
put
feel
that.
like in like 2 years, Maya will just be like, oh, yeah, Michelle Obama's my
bud.
friend. Yeah.
We'll just do a chat with both of them. Right?
Yes.
And Michelle's involved. Michelle, like she's my buddy.
Mimi, as I call her.
Shelley.
Yes. So Mrs. Obama is also involved with a TV show that has some little fuzzy characters that
Yes.
is a kids show.
When she started that, I was like, this is relevant
This is
to
where
us.
we're gonna get
This
her.
is relevant.
Right? Yeah. So I know I feel like we still have a chance. We'll
Okay.
still keep pushing that
Justine,
one.
write some emails.
That's right.
Get
Yeah.
going.
I'll see what I can do.
And along those same lines, Cory Booker, I'm still trying to get because Cory Booker, oddly enough, senator from New Jersey, was mayor of Newark, but is extremely involved in protecting small farmers at the national level.
Oh.
He's not a guy that you
And
would
he's
see as an
vegan.
ag guy. He's vegan.
Maya, call him up.
He has a celebrity girlfriend. Yes, we'll get Maya on this.
Hey,
Yeah, we'll
let's do
get
it.
that going, but we'll see what happens. One of my huge personal heroes right now, Jose Andres.
Yeah.
The World Central Kitchen, who does such amazing work in crisis areas. He's been in the Ukraine lately. He spent a lot of time in Haiti and in Puerto Rico during various huge natural disasters. He mobilizes chefs. And as part of that, when he's doing all those things, they typically buy from local farmers. So they go to farmers markets.
That's so cool.
The other side of his life is he runs very high-end restaurants, beautiful restaurants. The incredible chef, including ones in Washington, D.C., and his chefs I have run into, actually physically bumped into one time at a farmer's market in Washington, D.C. The chefs go out every week to shop at the farmer's market. So he'd be very relevant to us. I know there's people out there that know him if he's not listening himself, which I'm sure he is. He has nothing else going on. He's sure he's listening to Tent Talk. But you folks in D.C., especially you market managers, and Hugo, I'm talking to you. We need to talk to Jose Andres on this podcast.
Putting it out in the universe.
Yeah, we're manifesting.
Yes.
We're manifesting.
There's a 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon situation
Right?
happening.
Exactly.
Someone has to know
Maybe
somebody.
even just 4, right?
Yeah,
And I'm sure somebody out there knows Stacy from Stacy's Pita Chips. We'd like to talk to her. She started out in
that'd
farmers
be awesome.
markets. Yeah, she'd be great.
She was a guest on How I Built This podcast. On
We
Guy
wouldn't mind
Raz's.
talking to Guy Raz or having. Or we wouldn't mind being on his podcast.
Yeah.
Talking to him.
Yeah, Guy,
And then,
call us
I'm
up.
always after authors, so, I've got a bunch of favorite authors that I'd still like to talk to, including Peter Hoffman, that wrote What's Good. He's a chef that ran a wonderful restaurant in New York for many years and always shopped at the Union Square Farmers Market, where people would holler out to him as he walked through the market, "Chef, what's good?"
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah.
I
So
feel
we'd like
all
to talk
these
to him, and
people,
that's a pretty recent book.
100% need to be on on our podcast. All these people.
I think so,
If you're a
too.
publisher or a publicist,
Yeah.
Let's do it.
reach out.
Reach out.
Just if we're talking about other podcasts we love, or if if you're listening, obviously you like podcasts. So How I Built This is a really great one.
Yeah.
It has Guy Raz. It's like an NPR production.
Yeah.
Also, Freakonomics is really, really interesting. And I feel like we would be a great fit for that, talking about the economics behind farmers markets.
That's right.
Yep.
Also, I just recently started getting into this new podcast called Maintenance Phase, and it's really interesting. It's all about kind of like the intersections of diet culture and health and the way that we talk about food and the way that we talk about like dieting and kind of deconstructing some of those narratives. And it's just really interesting if you're interested in food and the way that it kind of impacts us psychologically. So that's what I've been listening to
Oh, I
recently.
haven't listened to
fitting.
that yet.
Yeah.
I'll have to do that.
Yeah.
And they actually recently did an interesting episode about the way that the omnivore's dilemma kind of like impacted farmers markets. And I want to write them a reply letter because I don't really agree. So maybe we could send Kat over there to tell him about farmers market.
That's right.
Yeah.
Let's get on that.
get
And
a
actually, if
rebuttal.
we're going to talk Omnivore's Dilemma, and another person who might come back to you and say, I'm not really about that anymore. I'm kind of into the psychedelics, but Michael Pollan would be fun to talk to, right?
Into the psychedelic.
Yeah.
We can talk about that.
He's all about that right now. Is that a certified thing? Maybe, right? Elle Simone Scott has
Oh,
a
yeah.
Oh, she's
podcast called The
awesome.
Walk-In, mostly about restaurant work, but I feel like there's some intersection there.
Yeah.
There's tie-in
Yeah.
there. So it'd be fun to be on her podcast.
Yeah.
Kelly Corrigan doesn't really talk at all about food or even entrepreneurship, but I just like her.
I love her.
I like to be on her podcast.
Favorite podcasts. I just love hearing her talk to anybody, really.
Yeah.
She talks to everybody. She could talk to us.
She can talk to us. Why not?
Sure, bring us
Yeah.
on.
You know what?
Me and Melinda Gates. I mean, we're on the same level, right?
That's what I'm saying.
Mindy.
Shelly, Mindy, and Kat. Let's
Right?
get them together. It's
That's
fine.
right. That'd be fun.
It's like The View, but
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Another place we should be.
My other favorite podcast is the Office Ladies podcast. Nothing to do with food,
Nothing to do
but
with food.
they're fun.
They're fun. Well, I mean, Dwight Schrute had a beet farm.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a tie in there.
There we go. There we go. That's our link.
That's our link. There's
Call
always
us.
a link. There's
Call
always
us.
a food link somewhere.
So, we're joking around, but podcasting is it is kind of a grind.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
Finding guests.
Finding
I think that's a good
guests.
segue.
Getting all these busy people on the phone.
Yeah.
Getting them to reply to our emails. You know,
Coordinating schedules.
getting everybody, herding cats. And it can be
herding
cats.
and Bridget
Hey.
sitting in this podcast pod when it gets really hot and we can't turn on the air conditioner.
We're roasting in here. Where's that temperature gauge that Jerome put in here so that we know if we're about to like all pass out from heat stroke?
But we've committed to it, and it's become a really, really, you know, kind of a cornerstone of what we do here at Farmers Market Pros, and something that is just really fun. And also, we are good at doing weekly things again and again and again and again.
I wonder why that is.
Yeah.
What other kind of experience do we have that might relate to that?
We're sharing skill sets
That's
here.
right.
Farmers markets.
Oh, yeah.
Operating farmers markets. It's, you know,
Rain or
it's
shine.
different, but it's the same thing. It's
Sure.
We're committed to doing this. We have a purpose behind this. We're mission driven in this way, and we have to show up, because if we don't show up, people will get used to us not being there.
Yeah.
That's right.
And they'll listen to some other podcast.
They'll go hungry. Oh, are we talking about the markets or the podcast?
We're talking about both.
Okay, we're talking
You'll
about
go
both.
You'll go hungry
So-
if you don't listen to TED Talk.
That's right.
But yeah, it is the same thing. And I think coming up with something fresh and making it exciting, sharing new ideas, just like having your market and making like the same market over and over every week, like really exciting, and, you know, educating your shoppers is the same thing. It all really ties in together. So
That's another thing we do every week. Email newsletters. Can you write a new email newsletter every week? We're
Yes, you
good
can.
at this
Yeah.
every week thing.
Hey.
It is.
Who
And
knew?
also, there's this whole like curation that goes behind the scenes too, making sure that we're featuring farmers, and we're also featuring these vendors, and we're talking to market managers, and kind of balancing that all out to make sure that we're serving all of our different audiences and not just focusing on one area.
exactly.
Like curating a farmer's market.
Exactly.
There is a lot of skill overlap here.
Yes.
I hadn't really thought of it that way before.
Ladies, I think this is
interesting.
why we're good at all these jobs, I have to say.
Maybe. Apparently we're good at this
We have
thing.
fine-tuned this. But yeah, it is a grind, and it is, I mean, kind of batching episodes because we're traveling at different times, and, you know, we have our own, like, personal things going on.
And we have markets to manage.
Yeah, professionally, I mean, we all
yeah.
work at the same company, but we all have a lot of different avenues that we take at the markets, and we all have different jobs that we have to do there, so we're not always synced up timing-wise. So just making all of that work is...
It's tricky.
It's
Yeah.
tricky sometimes, but I feel like we always just feel good about making it happen, and we always make it happen.
Yeah, and occasionally we, you know, even though their markets are so dynamic, there is a lot to talk about. Occasionally we need inspiration. So I just wanted us both as market managers and podcasters and educators to talk a little bit about like what keeps us inspired, what keeps us exciting, especially when it does really feel like this like weekly grind that never ends. How do we keep it fresh and exciting and coming up with new stuff all the time?
Part of it's just getting out there and visiting farmers markets, I feel like. Like, that's no matter where I am in the world, that's the first thing I do is check out, here are the days I'm going to be in this city. When are the farmers markets?
Yeah.
And can I access that? How do I get to them? And
Yeah.
what time are they? And I'm out there looking at other farmers markets. I guess that's a professional thing that I do, but mostly it's just I love farmers markets.
Yeah.
Yeah, people are always like, oh, so you can write this trip off? I'm like, well, okay, sure, but also because I just love that. And when I'm traveling, you never like eat great food when you're traveling. You're eating like whatever hotel food, or if you're at a conference, it's like you have to search it out and find it. And we're just so good at going and finding that local food scene, and that is always a farmer's market. So that's
Right.
where we go when we travel.
Yeah, and when you do find a farmer's market in another area, I mean, like, for example, our Saturday market is kind of like a tourist hub just because it's like an iconic San Diego place. But it is what's so fun about markets is you're meeting real people that live there and people that are doing their grocery shopping. And it does like tap you into what that city is actually about and not just these like tourist traps.
Yeah, like everyone's like, oh, I want to go to where the locals go to, like go to the local bar or the local restaurant. Well, if you go to a farmer's market, that's where the locals go.
Yeah.
So when you're traveling, I mean, I know I make a point to go to the farmer's market because that's where people that live there are going.
Yeah.
So it helps me kind of connect with the city that I'm in.
Yeah, that's a really great way to stay inspired. And for our markets and for our podcast, like going to a market and just seeing like what's different there. And, you know, it's easy to get trapped in our mindset of like, we live in San Diego. It's gorgeous most of the time, like 52 weeks out of the year. We operate a weekly market. year-round, rain or shine. So sometimes living in San Diego sometimes feels like, what time of year is it? Like, I don't even know because it looks the same in June as it does in November. And But when you go to other markets and you can really, really see, like, the seasonality and, like, what's there and – like, it's so special because it might just be there that week or, like, that might be the last day that it's there. It kind of rejuvenates you.
Yeah, for sure. When I go to Phoenix and go to the markets, it's like the markets that I went to in May, all of a sudden they're opening up at 7 a.m. and they're closing at 11 because it is blazing hot. But just getting there early and being able to see all the stuff that's still available even when it's so hot and just visiting all my favorite all my favorite vendors at the Uptown Market. That's where I go usually when I'm in town. So being able to go there and see like what is like sustaining those markets during those times is just really helpful, and it's inspiring to me as a market manager and as part of Farmers Market Pros and the podcast.
Yeah, love it. I have seen the tiniest market in the last 6 months over outside of London. Visited a market that was very small that day. She assures me it's not usually quite that small. It was coming up on Easter weekend. And then also one of the largest markets, actually the largest market I have ever seen. It's hard to impress me with a giant market because we do run kind of a giant market on Saturdays, but went to the market in Rennes outside of Paris.
Oh, yeah.
I want to gather up a group of farmers market managers and do a tour and take everybody over there because it was absolutely the most fabulous thing I've ever seen. 300 stalls, all food, not even non-food.
Yeah.
Wow.
Granted, 7 stalls selling galettes, which are buckwheat crepes, but and a lot of
that's
rota
my
chicken,
dream.
but so much fruits and vegetables and flowers and things. It was really astounding. So I love little tiny markets. I love really big markets.
Yeah, and sometimes the little tiny markets like inspire me. I went to Union Square Market on New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve? Yeah, New Year's Eve. So they were like, oh, the market's so tiny today. Like, this is not usually what it looks like. But it was so great. I got my apple cider donuts, and I got, like, some fresh produce. And it's like, even those smaller markets, though, it's inspiring to me, too. I mean, Union Square is usually huge. But just on those off days or whatever, rainy days, like, that always keeps me inspired, too. Because it's like, markets just keep going no matter what.
They do.
Yeah.
People just keep showing up.
Keep on keeping on.
It's important to the farmers and vendors. It's important to the customers. No matter what's going on, you got to keep going.
Yeah. And another thing is talking to our farmers and vendors. This goes for both podcasting and also just staying inspired. You know, Bridget writes 2 newsletters a week for our markets. I post on social media every single day for our market and for Farmers Market Pros. So sometimes it's like, what am I going to talk about today?
Yeah, what am I going to say? I sit around and twiddle my pen in my hand, like trying to think of things. So staying inspired is so important. Yeah.
So talking to your vendors and your farmers especially, they are such a wealth of knowledge, and just asking them like, okay, what's coming out? What are you growing? How do you use this? You know, why is elephant garlic called elephant garlic even though it's a leek? Like stuff like that, just asking your vendors about what they're doing is such a great source of information. And if you're feeling just like uninspired or you don't have ideas or you're exhausted or you just don't want to do it anymore, just chatting with the people that make your market a market. They have so many ideas and they're usually really excited to talk about their products. And so, you know, getting that like excitement from them kind of spills over to you.
And
so
I feel
like whether it's podcasting or maintaining your market, it's your market that's your inspiration.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like we do that like in our Farmers Market Pros community group. We're like, you know, sometimes I'll just ask, like, what's inspiring? Like, what's going on with all of you? Like, what are you guys doing at your market? What are some challenges that you're having? What is something new and exciting at your market? And just getting market managers to share what they're excited about and kind of keeping that helps us keep topics fresh for the podcast as well. Just like I do at the market when I ask vendors what's exciting with their business or on their farm. And they're like, oh, like, close your eyes. Let's do a taste test, you know, and just get real excited about things that are happening there. So keeping that going.
Farmers Market Pros community is amazing.
Yeah.
It's so amazing.
Yeah, that's one of the other things that we do. We have that private Facebook group, which is mostly managers. There's some farmers there. There's some vendors there as well. It's a great place to commiserate. It's a great place to get amazing ideas. We're really careful about who joins there. We actually just went through kind of a reevaluation of should we let people in that are thinking about starting a market, and as a group kind of confirm the idea that no, that's not actually what that group is for. Podcast is good for that. We've got some classes that are good for that. But people that are actually active in farmers markets, that's that's who contributes to that conversation, and that's what makes it valuable and really dynamic.
Yeah, it's kind of like our people, and that's where we're going to find the most help because it's people that are actually doing those kind of things.
Right.
So there's a lot of good groups where people can go to see, like, if they're just thinking about it, or I feel like our podcast is a good place for people to listen if they're thinking about it. But if you're really in the trenches of running a market or participating in a market, that Facebook community group is so awesome. Such a great resource.
That's really important.
And obviously our conference is like such a huge source of inspiration and excitement and creativity. And I feel like every year just getting together with everybody, like, just pages of notes. And like the weeks after, I'm just like so filled with excitement and creative energy and like just like writing down all these ideas for podcasts. And we meet so many awesome people at the conference that we are then able to talk to and kind of continue to develop those relationships. And so that is just such an exciting, like, blossoming time of creativity for us.
Yeah, that definitely keeps us inspired. I mean, we've been doing markets for so long, but I'm still like, oh my gosh, that merch is so awesome. I never thought of that.
So much cute merch.
So much cute merch, and just the vendor
presentations.
Presentations talking about taking pictures at your market, or the people that were doing drive-through markets during COVID and stuff. Just hearing all that really inspirational stuff at when we did our conference virtually, and just
how to manage budgets.
How to manage budget. I mean, there's just so many, as everyone who's involved in markets knows, there's just a million little things. Our job is weird. And, you know, getting to hear from people who have great ideas to streamline those things and make it easier or make it more exciting. I mean, how else are you going to keep doing this grind and kind of dealing with it without kind of giving yourself that inspiration?
You got to feed yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, in addition to our own conference that is wonderful, we go to a fair amount of doing things like outside of our own things. Like we were recently just at the Main Street of America conference in Richmond, which totally just blew my mind.
Oh my gosh.
I was so amazed to meet all of these people that work for Main Street associations that also manage farmers markets in addition to their full-time job. And so
sometimes very deliberately, and sometimes where, oh, you look like you have a few extra hours a week. How about you take over the farmers market for this community?
But they're also running the Main Street,
Exactly.
which, as we know, because we partner with a lot of Main Street like groups, that is a huge job. So then they were also running their farmers market. That conference was like, it just blew our minds. We were like, we can't believe it. Like, all these people that are here either work really closely with their market manager or they're running their markets. Like, these are our people. And it was a really great, like, well done conference too. That was an amazing conference. Loved Richmond, Virginia. Little pocket that we were in was great.
Fun.
And then we did visit markets while we were there. We took a red-eye flight to Virginia, got off the plane, and went to 2 markets. That was our dedication.
And it was Bridget's birthday.
And it was
Bridget's birthday. That's right. It was great, though. And it was exciting to see some of those folks who were attending the conference light up when they got to our booth and realize that there's somebody that helps with farmers markets.
They were like, please save me.
Please help us. They were like tears in their eyes. And some of them were like, oh my gosh, I listened to your podcast because I have to run my market and I don't know what I'm doing, or I'm just getting my feet wet or something. So
that was exciting. And
it was great.
Tell them that we have some services available and some consulting and things that can help them get through.
Every time I was like, we have this Vendor 101, and they're like, yes, please. Like, this will help me. This will save me so much time when I don't have to answer all these questions for people who want to become vendors. So that was just a really great way to connect. Such a great conference. I'm so glad we went. Yeah.
And Kat's always skipping town to go do fun things in different cities, going to different conferences and speaking at conferences.
Yeah. A lot of speaking at conferences. We're doing a lot of trainings right now. We're doing a 3-year-long training, actually, with the Oregon Farmers Market Association. Excited about that. And then sometimes I do things that are not speaking or consulting that are just to feed my own inspiration, like Eat Retreat, which is chefs and market people and a lot of people connected to different parts of food that get together and camp out in a summer camp kind of situation.
So fun.
Yeah, it's the best. And those have become, I think, because we're all sleeping in the same place and things, it has become a really bonded experience. Many, many people that I've met through Eat Retreat, we've kept in touch for years and run across each other in different parts of the country.
Is that how you met El Scott Simone?
That's how I met El Scott Simone was at Eat Retreat one year when I was there. And then that's kind of how I ended up with a Philly connection, because a lot of my Eat Retreat friends are from Philly. They're butchers or they're chefs or things going on. We've got connections in Alaska from somebody that taught us to to break down a salmon and how to make caviar.
So
Wow.
even if it's
Neat
not
retreat.
like a farmers market specific conference
There's
or
still usually a food
retreat,
connection.
I mean, just finding people in your sphere. I mean, finding those people that are connected to food, because that's what we are as market managers and operators and participants,
That's
right? So
yeah, go to
Find
Good
it-
Life Experience
Yeah,
in Wales, and,
yeah.
and that is on the grounds of a really, really old castle that has a huge garden. And all the food comes out of the garden and is cooked over fire. So, yeah. It's,
very connected to
awesome.
that. Yeah.
all the things we do to stay inspired. We read, we garden.
We benefit from Justine's sewing hobby sometimes.
That's right.
Making us some stuff. So
That's right. Oh, and we
Thanks.
looked good in Richmond.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I had
Yes.
a peach skirt. Justine had a tomato top. It was amazing.
Yeah.
They could spot us from a mile away in that hall.
Very on theme.
Anyway,
that's good.
well, we should wrap it up. But
Okay.
thank you all so much for tuning in. It really has surpassed all expectations and is so fun connecting with all of you. So if you're listening, pat yourself on the back. You've been keeping us going, and you are our source of inspiration. And
Absolutely. What are some things that they can do to keep inspiring us? We
so
have a
there's
short list.
There's a lot that you can do. I'll give you a little bullet pointed list, like
Okay.
I send emails to Kat and Bridget telling them what their homework. This is your homework.
That's all right. We get homework from
We
Justine
get
every
Justine
week.
homework.
So,
So
now
this is your homework.
You lucky listeners also get a Justine list of
You
homework.
can write us a review on iTunes. That is a really, really helpful and simple way that you can help other people find our podcast. It could be really short. It could be long. Whatever you want. You can also just give us a little 5-star review that helps people find our podcast. If you don't already, you can follow us on Instagram, like and comment on our posts so more people can discover us. You can
We love those comments and messages.
so fun. You can just share our podcast with others in your farmers market community. If there's an episode that you think one of your farmers would like, or if you are a vendor and there's something that you think that your market manager that will help them, just share with your market buddies. Just pass it on, send them a link.
Actually, you can do that too with your suppliers. So if you're buying goods
yeah.
and services from somebody, whether it's a communication service like we've talked about recently, whether it's who you buy your tents from, or any kind of supplies that you get, point them our
Packaging,
way.
yeah.
We'd love to have them hook up with us and join us and maybe share their resources with other people at the conference or via the podcast.
Yeah. You could purchase an online course or consulting service. Anytime you do that, that helps fund us. We don't make a whole lot of money on this podcast. This is something that we give you for free.
It's a labor of
so
love.
if you want to help this podcast keep going, you can purchase something from us. And another one is you can join us at the 2023 Intense Conference in San Diego, California, or online. It's going to be March 6th, 7th, and 8th in 2023.
Is this our official Save the Date announcement on air? This
it's
On
our first
air.
time.
This is the
First time
first
on the
time
podcast, right?
on air.
Yeah.
You've probably seen us post it, but this is our first official announcement of our 2023 conference.
That's right.
Yeah.
March 6th, 7th, and 8th.
Mark
Still
that
in San
calendar.
Diego.
Yes.
Which is not a bad place to be in March.
Oh, man.
It's the best place to be.
All those people we saw in Richmond were like, we have a conference in March, and it's in San Diego. And they're like, we don't care what it's about. We're coming. I'm like, it's really good content. Okay.
Yep, so that's your homework. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you so much, everyone.
It has been a great 200 episodes, and looking forward to the next 200. Thanks for listening today, and big thanks to American Farmland Trust for protecting small farmers and supporting Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast. Click their logo on the resource page at farmersmarketpros.com and join American Farmland Trust today.
Farmers markets are all about connection, and all of us, operators, farmers, and vendors, keep learning. Connect with people just like you from various parts of the country and share what's happening in your area in the terrific conversations over in our private Facebook group, the Farmers Market Pros Community. If you're actively involved in a farmers market, please find us there, answer the 3 qualifying questions, and join the group. You can also message us on Instagram at Farmers Market Pros or email us at connect@farmersmarketpros.com. If you're looking for further education, check out our online course offerings at farmersmarketpros.com. Thanks for listening to Tent Talk. Please leave us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you access your podcasts, and tell us and others how you're enjoying Tent Talk. And be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss the next episode. Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast, is proudly produced by Farmers Market Pros, where passion meets profit. Today's episode was recorded and edited by Justine Marzoni Mead. Original music by David Mead. Thank you so much for listening today, and we'll have another great episode next week, so tune in.